Hi, friends. This is Pastor Bart. And if you've known me for any length of time, you know that I really enjoy Christmas. But I noticed that for whatever reason, this season can also be a time of paradox. Because on the one hand, we are celebrating the coming of Jesus with us, that babe in a manger, the incarnation, as theologians would say. But on the other hand, the season is so busy. There's so many peripheral things that we attend to on the holidays. So the gifts, the trees, and a lot of times there are things associated with this season in individual lives that are not necessarily celebratory. That it can really be difficult to focus on Jesus. Sometimes it can be more difficult to focus on him during this season than in other seasons. So it's a little bit of a paradox. So for a while now, I've wanted to create just a really short series of short videos that just share Christmas stories. And the purpose of the stories are only to help us to reflect on what is important. Sometimes that's incarnation. Sometimes it's other values that arise out of Christianity and the fact that Jesus did come to us 2,000 years ago. Some of the stories have applications. Some of them are Jesus-centric. A few are not. All are true except for one allegorical one, which I'll identify that when it comes. But the point is of these stories is just to help us focus on what is important. So today is December 1st. It is cold and rainy and wet outside. And so that might actually be a good setting for our first story. Our first story is about a boy named Marty. Marty was 8 years old. He lived just outside of Redmond, Washington. He was the youngest of all the children. He was active. He was a vibrant boy. He was deaf in his ear, and so when he talked to you, he'd kind of cock his good ear towards you so that he could hear. But beyond that, a wonderful, wonderful boy. And his best friend lived across a long pasture, a hilly area. There was an electric fence in between it. And his best friend was Kenny. Kenny was also 8, and they were tight. When you called Marty, usually you would get Marty and Kenny. And if you called just Kenny, usually you'd still get Kenny and Marty. These two were kind of inseparable. But Marty's mom noticed a change come over his behavior during autumn. Now, Marty's family was not rich. As a matter of fact, they were barely making it. But there was a little bit extra. And so the children would get allowance for doing their chores. And Marty's mom noticed that Marty was being very careful to do all of his chores perfectly. And so she'd give him his allowance, and he would squirrel it away, and he would not spend a cent of it. And she wasn't sure what was up, but she knew something was up, and she was pretty sure it involved Kenny, because, of course, it would have to involve Kenny. So, anyway, this behavior continued from autumn all the way until a couple days before Christmas. And Marty's mom, she's making some dough. She's getting ready for Christmas, and Marty comes up to her and says, "Do you want to see the present I got for Kenny?" And Marty brings out of his coat just this pocket compass, which it looked great. It was awesome for him. It was a huge purchase, a gift. And Marty's mom, she doesn't know what to say because it's a wonderful gift. But she knows that there's a big problem. Their family was barely making it, but Kenny's family was far worse off. They wouldn't be exchanging gifts with anyone outside of their family. Even inside their family was a little dubious. So, and they were very proud. So Marty's mom sits Marty down and says, it's a wonderful gift. It's great, but they're not going to accept it because they can't give a gift back to you. And so Marty, he's 8 years old, but he's smart. He's listening to his mom. And he gets it. And he says, "But Mom, what if I give it anonymously? What if I?" They begin to make a plan. And Marty's mom finally said, "Okay, you can do it." So the next day, it's Christmas Eve day. And as things begin to get a little bit dark, not too dark, wet and rainy, just like it is today, Marty puts on his heavy coat. He's got the pocket compass. He puts the gift in, and he takes the long trek across the pasture, goes under the electric fence like they do every day, sneaks up to Kenny's door, puts it on the railing so where it'll be seen as soon as the door opens. He gets himself ready because he's going to flee. He's going to give this anonymously. Goes to hit the doorbell, hits it, and then he runs. He ran to the backyard, over the hill, and just to the point where he's trying to get out of view of the house. He's running. He looks back and he's succeeded. He's out of view of the house. He knows that nobody saw him. And as he turns, he smacks hard into that electric fence. Now the wind is knocked out of him. He is in the mud. He is laying on his back. He's gotten a pretty bad jolt. And so he's trying to recover. He crawls under the fence and then he just drags himself to his house and he opens the door. And Marty's mom sees him, of course, and she is distraught. Marty is weak. He is crying. He is just gross in terms of mud, and he's got this really bad red mark. It's already starting to blister. It's basically an electric burn. And so she cleans him up, takes off clothes, puts some laundry pile, cleans him up, gives him some hot cocoa, begins treating his face, and it's blistering up. And she's doing all that she can. And finally, Marty calms down. Everything's going to be all right. And when he calms down, he tells her, "Mom, I'm sure no one saw me." Right? That's what he was concerned about. It's Christmas Eve, so they all go to bed, and Marty sleeps well. But Marty's mom does not sleep well. She's a little upset. She's thinking about the injustice of it all. Here's a boy who is saved for months and months to get his friend something good, and finally does it in an anonymous way, and this is what happens. It just didn't seem fair to her. Finally, she gets to sleep. And she's very worried, of course, about the scar. She doesn't want her child scarred. But when she wakes up, it's sunny. It's beautiful outside, and she is relieved, much relieved, because she looks at Marty's face, and it's a red mark for sure, but the blisters have stopped. It's definitely receded. She doesn't think it's going to be scarring, so she's pleased, and it's a beautiful day. So they do the things that they normally do on Christmas Eve, and or Christmas Day rather. They have breakfast. There's an exchange of gifts, and Marty's mom's thinking, well, Kenny's probably going to show up anytime soon, and lo and behold, knock, knock, knock. Someone comes through, it's Kenny, right? And so Kenny goes to Marty, says, "You know what happened?" And he's saying, somebody dropped off this wonderful compass, and he's treating it gingerly, and he's got it all there, and he's so excited. And Marty's playing it cool, right? He's listening and everything. He's so excited that he was able to do this for his friend. And Marty's mom's just watching them interact, and she's just so pleased with her son doing that for his friend. But then she notices something's off, because Marty's not cocking his head to listen to Kenny anymore. He's looking at him straight on. And she studies and she studies and she looks. A few weeks later, the school confirms what Marty's mom realized that day, is that his collision with the electric fence somehow, some way, restored the hearing to his deaf ear. Marty's mom, she remembered how she felt that Christmas Eve night as she tried to sleep about injustice. But then that was replaced with a prayer of thanksgiving. And she would later say these words: "That morning was an incredible exchange of gifts." Grace and peace to you, my friends, and remember the things that are important. Take care.